Let's try and make a sense of everything that's been happening today in Parliament and around Parliament. I'm speaking now to political analyst Thabo Shole Mashao. Thabo, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. Can we just start here first with the issue of the public protector? Okay, the president a short while ago saying, no, there was nothing wrong with the timing because he made the suspension yesterday. The Western Cape High Court making his decision today. He said this thing has been going for a long time, sort of not really giving a lot of consideration to speculation that there was something interesting, if at all, around the timing. And just breaking a short while ago, the public protector saying she's not going to take this lying down. She's going to fight back against the suspension.
Certainly, and it's a big issue. Just after she announced that she's going to be investigating the president, a day later or a couple of hours later, she served and slept with a letter of suspension with immediate effect. One may say that the timing is slightly suspect, but to be honest, as much as the timing might be and possibly could be suspect, we have to concede, Braden, that this has been long coming. The president has just been very, very patient, and he's taken quite some time before he got to this point. As to why he did it only now as opposed to before, that will always be up to speculation. But we should not be, as in the case of the other presidential issues that we'll speak about later on, be truly worried about the time more than the merit. The question that should be asked around the public protector, is it within the president's right to offer the suspension? Does he have enough ground to do so? And yes on both questions, because one, the Constitution empowers him to do so, and you and I can come up with at least 8 incidents that have been ventilated in court that may have brought the president to this decision.
Yeah, so the questions will still be around there, but he sort of said, no, there's nothing wrong to it. We're going to have to wait and see what's going to happen. But the bigger elephant in the room is around Phala Phala game farm in Limpopo, that now famous or not so famous anymore, infamous kind of robbery that was never reported to the police properly by the president because he says he was traveling, he was in Addis Ababa, he reported it to the head of the Presidential Protection Services. Now 2 years later, things are out, he says yes, there was a robbery, but he's not giving any details. Why? Because he said let's follow due process. Every question that was put to him from every different angle, he answered it basically with 2 words: due process, due process. What are your thoughts?
I wish he could have been as fascinated about due process as he is now in 2020 after the robbery, because we wouldn't be here if due process was his fascination at the time. And also the president is now clearly politically limping from this question that he's ducking and diving. I mean, Shoba tried to also ask the question again in various ways, as did many other journalists, and he just threw them to due process. Even issues that had nothing to do with the case itself, as to taking South Africans into his confidence to say, I wish I had done better. Not even that came out from the president. And true to it, this issue is not going away anytime soon. The public relations and communications team of the president have got it wrong. And they are thinking that he will survive by evading it, throwing it to due process. No, it's really, truly not time for that particular strategy now. He is the president. Matters are rather unconventional. It is business unusual. He needed to come out and take the nation to his confidence and say, this is what happened. I didn't do this and that. And I'm willing to repeat the very same in court because my hands are clean. I am happy to say anything without fear of contradiction later in the later stages of this legal process. Due process is not enough to hide behind, especially if you are the president. Particularly if you want to distinguish yourself from the past and if you're a champion of corruption. Corruption finds and is founded on the basis of transparency. Currently, the president is not being transparent. He's not communicating and he's not being open. It just makes him look even more guilty in the court of public opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's a, you know what, Thabo, while I have you, just talk about public opinion. There's one question among many others, just simple question. He said in Limpopo last week when he was closing the ANC provincial conference. This is
Yes.
Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, now as ANC president. He says, I didn't steal any money. Then you go back to the affidavit that has been made public of Mr. Arthur Fraser in the criminal complaint against the president. Nowhere he's accusing the president of having stolen any money. Then he says, I have a business to run. I deal in wild farm and game. But he's the president of the country. He's not running a business currently.
Yeah.
Okay? Then he says,
Yeah.
if you make money from that, like any other business, you should deposit the money in the bank. So why is the money lying around in a household like that, that then tempts, accordingly, the domestic worker allegedly, then the rest? I mean, nobody has accused the president of stealing any money.
And he's diverting and digressing, and that's why he will then come out and say that he'll continue with the business of fighting corruption, and mentions faceless people that are who will be happy if the issues are muddied. And that no one has, you're quite right, Brother, no one has accused the president of stealing money. No one has accused the president of any other crime. People have been saying, did this happen? And if you've got nothing to hide, if Braden, yesterday you didn't rob a bank, even if you are charged, you tell us today that yesterday at 7 o'clock I was at my house sleeping or reading, and you wouldn't be confused with the issues of sub judice. All those things, they are really not doing the president any good, because he is digressing from critical issues. Even today, Braden, I didn't hear him. Perhaps you did. I didn't hear him clearly, unambiguously saying that he will step aside if he is charged.
Well, he said in terms of the integrity
process again.
Yeah, he said with the Integrity Commission of the ANC is going there because the party deployed him. It's not because he's giving the ANC more importance than the South African citizens. Then he said he cannot preempt what the Integrity Commission will say in answering that. He'll have to wait, but he's not happy with the allegations and the insults that are being hurled at him.
Yeah, I was referring to prior to that. That he said in the latter stages of the press briefing. In the earlier stages, he was asked a direct question as to whether he will step aside if he is charged. And the president didn't. He said the ANC will take its processes and whatever else. And those things where the president answers the question that he's not asked, they are really worrisome, because it appears as though the lady doth protest much, as the saying goes. And you wonder, why isn't the president answering questions that he's asked, including the one that you asked about, by the way, that no one said the president has committed any crime. Actually, South Africans would have forgotten about these issues a couple of days ago if the president had come out clearly and said, as opposed to $4 million, I actually had 300,000 rands. And these are the receipts. I'll make them available in court. And this is where we stand. But none of that is coming forth. And it is creating more cloud.
I mean, there was a question by journalists, how can you reassure South Africans? Anyway, Thabo, before I let you go, we saw again, as promised, the EFF causing chaos. Yesterday, they said they will disrupt. They said we will treat you like we treated Jacob Zuma during the pay back the money around eNCA issue. John Steenhuisen of the DA standing up yesterday in Parliament when he was participating in the presidency budget vote debate, saying, Mr. President, be careful. This issue of Phala farm, this farm gate thing is becoming your Nkandla. And today as well, we saw more scenes, including scenes where people were being physically removed, I mean, violently removed from Parliament. That's a disgrace, surely, just looking at the all-round picture in terms of our Parliament descending into chaos.
It is quite unfortunate, Braden, particularly even if we were to leave politics, particularly as we are dealing with this epidemic of GBV and general violence in our society. You do not expect the parliamentary, an institution like Parliament to really be leading with resolving conflicts through violence. What are they saying to school children? What are they saying to our young people out there? What are they saying to society at large? And again, I feel that the president missed an opportunity because he's not a member of Parliament. He could have easily said, what happened was unfortunate. I didn't want to see any violence despite whatever disagreements that we have, it should not escalate to violence, because in that way he would have risen above the petty party political squabbles. You could see that people being manhandled as you and I are speaking, and you're playing those clips, Braden. That is not a scene that we're expecting from an institution that is supposed to be leading not only economically but socially and otherwise, that is supposed to be leading South Africa to a better place. It is really embarrassing. I think it was poorly handled. This is not to encourage the EFF. This is not to encourage the speaker, but all around, this is not the picture that we want to be sending, not only to the world, but to our children who are growing up in South Africa, that as South Africans, this is how we resolve issues. Tomorrow they'll be doing this, and you and I will be on their backs, shouting and screaming and saying children are bad today, this, that, and the other. But they'll be taking lead, an example directly from our leaders who've been voted in by us.
I mean, you saw a security guy pushing a female member of parliament to the ground. I mean, it's like, where are you? Are you what? What's going on here?
And Braden, if we do not speak about this, we must all take off our partisan hats. We must stop looking at South Africa through the lenses of partisan and also factionalism. We must condemn violence as South Africans and say no matter how much we disagree, violence should not be an ingredient with which we resolve issues.
There must be better ways. There must be better ways of asking unruly members of parliament to leave the chamber, the assembly. There must be, rather than what we saw. That was abominable, what happened in parliament today by the security guards.
And it was embarrassing. We saw Parliament actually putting a disrepute upon Parliament. We saw a lack of leadership, and it played itself out 1,000 times, wherein the Speaker kept on saying that she will still call the bouncers, she will still call the bouncers. And it appears as though the bouncers then become a buffer between the Speaker and those who are seen to be the nemesis or troublemakers. And it ought not to be. Parliament, Braden, should be a festival of ideas. Parliament should be a potpourri of engagement. It should be a place where really diplomacy thrives far better than anywhere else. But it descended into a brawl at a tavern somewhere in the periphery of civilization, and that's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's an abomination. I mean, what we saw in Parliament today. I hope people get arrested. I hope people really do get arrested and face the music. Thank you very much, Thabo Shole Mashao, political analyst, giving us some of his views of what happened in Parliament earlier today. That was